people believe Edinburgh was built on the three B's, banks, breweries, and books. And by books I mean printing and publishing. There's about 16 publishing firms in Edinburgh at one stage, not today. We're coming around to Greyfriars Bobby. I don't know if you've heard of Greyfriars Bobby. He's the wee dog. Just across the road here on your left, in front of the pub, on the plinth, he was a Skye Terrier. And in 1858, his master, Jock Gray, died, and Bobby was left alone. He was given the freedom of the city. He was a protected dog, but he wouldn't stay with anybody. He would insist in the graveyard on the other side of that building, sleeping on his master's grave every single night. Bobby was 2 when Jock died. Bobby lived till he was 16, so he did this for 14 years. The other connection with Greyfriars graveyard there is the Covenanters. They were the religious martyrs that were persecuted for not accepting the King's word about the Bible. And also Harry Potter. Some of the characters from Harry Potter come from the headstones in that graveyard. J.K. Rowling used to go around graveyards to find unusual names for characters, a little bit like Charles Dickens. Dickens did the same. So for instance, William McGonagall, a notorious Scottish poet, he was so bad he became famous, became Professor McGonagall in the Harry Potter novels. Here on the corner of the McEwan Graduation Hall, and at the back here is the medical school. Arthur Conan Doyle, the author of Sherlock Holmes, went to that medical school. I'm going to surprise you now, a very famous Englishman went to that medical school, and you probably won't believe me when I say it, but it's true. Charles Darwin. How about that? Charles Darwin went to that school. He didn't last very long because he couldn't stand the sight of blood. So he went back to England. Then he became famous for saying, "Did you write a book, Charles Darwin?" Wasn't as big as the Harry Potter novels, was it? That's a joke. Don't put that on TripAdvisor. Yeah. The guy didn't know who Charles Darwin was. Yeah. This is Forest Road, and if you're into folk music, Scottish, Irish, English, American, have a look here on your left. Sandy Bell's, very famous folk music bar, little bar. Everybody's played there. Everybody was anybody. Well, like I was saying, this is a very pleasant day in Edinburgh. A little bit chilly. It's a little bit colder than it's been recently, but we're going to have a stormy night. Overnight, it's going to be torrential rain. I'm a bundle of laughs, aren't I, really? Yeah. And we're going to have very, very windy weather. Yeah, but it's only going to last for some 24 hours or so, and I think we're going to be okay now. This is Candlemaker Row. All the candles were made outside the city walls. Edinburgh had a wall around it. It had 3 walls around it in its history, but the most famous wall was the Flodden Wall after the Battle of Flodden in 1513. Flodden's just inside England. It's just over the border in England. We're coming to the Grass Market, which was a feed market, an animal market in the old days. And on your right here is the Cowgate. It used to be spelled G-A-I-T, so in other words, cow walk. The cows were walked into the city to the Grass Market, which was an animal market. Nice view of the castle, if you're just looking in front of the bus. So you can see the backdrop to the Grass Market. And I want you to imagine this place 300 to 400 years ago. It would be a market for selling the animals, and then gradually the taverns, the hotels were built up around it. The farmers would come into the city and sell their animals. It was also one of the main hanging areas of the city. You get about 25,000 people here for hanging day. No football, no television, no radio, no cinema. What do you do? Let's go to Edinburgh. Let's take the children. We'll make some sandwiches. Let's take Granny with us. We'll have a day out in Edinburgh at the hangings. Yeah. I'm glad I didn't live in those days. But this is a very popular place now for tourists in the city centre. It's a good place to come in the evening because there's quite a few restaurants here and you don't have to walk very far. So if you don't like the French restaurant, you can go to the Indian restaurant. If you don't like the Indian, you can go to the Italian, and so on and so forth. It's very strange. I never know where these things are coming from. Yeah, it's a fire engine just behind us. So there's quite a few interesting pubs here, not least the White Hart Inn, which is just coming up on your right. ahead of the bus here. It's one of the oldest pubs in Edinburgh. Gets its name from the stag that attacked King David I in Holyrood Park in 1127. Can you believe that? 1127. And that's where we get the name Holyrood from, because the incident, according to King David I, was a religious vision. It was a cross that protected him, and Holyrood means Holy Cross. So that's where the name comes from. So it's quite a vibrant area here, and when the festival's on, there's a lot of music here, particularly jazz music, folk music. Here's the White Hart Inn coming up. Rabbie Burns spent his last evening in the city at this pub, and the English Romantic poet William Wordsworth stayed there with his sister Dorothy. Most of the Romantic poets came to Edinburgh. Shelley eloped here with his wife, his first wife, Harriet. She was all of 16 years of age. Then he came with his second wife. I hope they didn't stay in the same place. His second wife was Mary Shelley, of course. You all know Mary Shelley from the author of Frankenstein. You haven't read the book, you might have seen the film. Coming up to the Westport, gates in Scotland were always called ports, the same as seaports, P-O-R-T. In France it's P-O-R-T-E on the end. So we'll be outside the city walls now, and this is where Burke and Hare used to operate. William Burke and William Hare were our most notorious serial killers. In 1827 they murdered 16 people. Why? To supply the anatomy school with bodies for dissection. They got £7 per body, which was a lot of money in those days, equivalent to a labourer's wages for 1 year. Now listen very carefully, because this might be to your advantage. This is what Burke and Hare used to do in this very road. They had a boarding house over there where that modern building is. There used to be a lot of boarding houses there. And they would go in the taverns here. Are you ready for this? And they would befriend tourists. Yes. Particularly tourists from the United States and the south of England. Yeah? And they would ply them with drink. They would take them back to the boarding house and they would suffocate them. And actually that became part of the English language, because William Burke, burking, became a word in the English dictionary. To burk somebody was to suffocate somebody. Now, a very famous Scotsman used to deliver milk on a horse and cart in this very street. He was born right over there at Fountain Bridge in, well, about 86 years ago. Became the most famous Scotsman of the last, I don't know, 50, 60 years. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Left school at 14, delivered milk on a horse and cart in this street. Sean Connery, no less. How about that? Mr. James Bond. So you could see he came a long, long way from the cobbled streets of Edinburgh to the Hollywood boulevards. Nice view of the castle coming up, the back of the castle. This is Johnstone Terrace, stop number 9. This is not the castle stop. The castle stop is the next one, number 10. Now, you know, the castle has been many things in its time. It's been an army barracks, it's been a prison. It was a prison after the war with Napoleon. There was a lot of French prisoners. It's been a royal residence. In fact, if you look above you on the left, you'll see the royal residence now. And in 1567, Mary Queen of Scots gave birth to her only child, James. James I of England, James VI of Scotland. That's where we get the King James Bible from. You see the seating coming up on your left. This is the seating for the military tattoo, which takes place in August. They put the seating up every year and then they take it down around about September. There's going to be a few concerts as well. We have a few concerts during July. Anybody been to the military tattoo? Have you been at all? No. Is this your first visit to Edinburgh for everybody? Yes, or Edinburgh's totally new to you? So that's the most sought after ticket in the Edinburgh calendar year, the military tattoo, believe it or not. It's not the Fringe Festival, the main festival, it's the military tattoo. Very difficult to get the ticket, or get a good ticket anyway. This is the back of the Whisky Experience Museum. A lot of scaffolding in Edinburgh at the moment. It's a little bit annoying, these buildings, but never mind. This is the old St John's Gaelic speaking church. Only Gaelic was spoken at that church. It's not been a church for a long time. Belongs to the Edinburgh Festival now. So, if you were going to the castle today, and I know most of you are staying on, but this would be the stop for the castle, so the next stop. And if you're on later today, just remain seated until we get to the stop, because it gets very bumpy here. I wouldn't like to be walking down those stairs, you see what I mean in a minute. People do have a habit of walking in front of the bus, taking selfies on the mobile phones. If you want to go to the castle, give yourself 2 hours to go around the castle, okay, so don't go too late. I would certainly go before 3 o'clock, okay? Do you want this stop? Yeah, you do. Yeah, you jump off, fine. We're not quite there yet, if you just remain seated. Yeah, well, that's the best way. The best way to use your ticket and get the full value of the ticket, and it's a fantastically, good value, is to do just what this gentleman's been saying. Do the tour by all means, but hop on, off, all right. The way I would do it, but people not always got time, of course, I would do the full tour and then get on and off, do that.